food for this spring. So I'm back here with another convenience store food video for you. This is my spring collection. I've been working on this for the last few months, eating all these different products. So despite everything that's happening in Japan and the rest of the world, one of the cool things about Japan is that the convenience stores are still open, so we can still do this video. But before I start, if you want to help support the channel, then definitely check out the Japan merch. If you want to see what I'm doing on the daily, check out the Instagram account. And guess who's joining me today? Michael!
Yay!
Yay! You ready for this?
Yeah, I think this time I actually like a lot of things.
Yeah?
Usually, like, it's your top 10.
It is always my top
But
10.
I think your top 10 is pretty close to my top 10.
Yeah.
So I think this time,
So we have some good picks.
good picks, yeah.
Alright, without further ado, let's do this!
Finish!
Number 10, Yukimi Daifuku Pancake Flavor. Have you ever wanted breakfast and dessert at the same time? Then here you go! You have the Yukimi Daifuku Pancake Edition. And it's mochi mochi. Yeah, let's just open this one up. You have the nice kind of mochi outer shell here. You have the ice cream in the middle, and then you have some maple syrup right there. That is delicious. These are good. So many textures, but when you first bite into it, you get the nice mochi outer shell, you get that cold ice cream, and then just at the center you have the maple syrup, and it's nice and thick, like it's almost like a caramel, where it's just kind of like nice and creamy. The actual ice cream itself does taste like a little bit like pancake. It's a wonderful dessert breakfast combination. I just love this. And you get two, so Michael gets her own.
Itadakimasu. It does taste like pancake. No, it tastes like you know, like when pancake is cooked on the pan, it's not burnt, but like it's the smell of like being cooked. How do I explain that? Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah. It tastes like that. Maybe it's this mochi that's making that flavor. I just love the texture of mochi. Here's ice cream.
Number 9, Manpuku Chahan and Yamitsuki Yurinchi from 7-Eleven. Surprise, surprise, we have some Yurinchi fried chicken. So I'll be honest with you, there hasn't actually been a lot of new bentos that I've liked. So this bento is one of those kind of like a standard fillers. So this one is kind of like a go-to if you want to have a nice, satisfying, fulfilling meal. Like this thing is quite heavy, and it comes with just this huge piece of fried chicken, Yurinchi style. It has all of this rice and this, like, I don't even know, but they have some egg here as well. Look at how thick and huge these pieces of chicken are. Take a bite out of crime. That's a nice thick piece, like nicely marinated. Like you can taste there's like the flavor. It has kind of like a sweet and sour sauce with a little bit of like red chili pepper on it, but it's not that spicy at all. It's not crunchy like you would want because it is microwaved chicken, but it's like just like a decent portion of food. It just fills you like a gut bomb. And then surprise, yeah, they have some yakisoba in the bottom of it. And it's pretty good actually. I will like eat this whole thing. I'm actually almost half done. Number 8, Sakura Tea Latte. So this wouldn't be a spring collection if I didn't bring something Sakura flavored for y'all. So here it is, Sakura Tea Latte. If you ever had milk tea, it's pretty much like that, but with Sakura flavor. This is obviously a limited edition. Let me just pour it for you. I mean, I could drink out of the carton, but let's be a little bit civilized. And here you go, the latte of the spring gods. Oh, you can smell the cherry in there, the Sakura. That's actually pretty strong. Like, Micah, smell this. Right? You can smell
I
it.
actually like the smell.
Oh, nice, light, refreshing. In fact, what you can do, like, it's served cold, but if you wanted to, you can actually put this in the microwave and serve it warm, but you do need to take it out of the container when you do that.
スメルがする。 You know, like, I would never buy, like, these Sakura flavored drinks. This is actually really good. It just makes the milk tea better.
I can only do it during the season. I wouldn't want it all the time.
No. It's
kind of like eggnog.
Yeah.
Number 7, Kappa Ebisen Koime Yuzu Kosho flavor. Look at these wonderful snacks. These ones have made the spring collection because they're a little bit different. They got a little spice to it and they have some yuzu flavors. This is Kappa Ebisen Koime, so it means like kind of strong and thick. So if you can see, right, so yuzu kosho, it's almost like a lime or a lemon. Kosho meaning pepper, so you would think it's kind of like a lime pepper, but it's kind of more like a paste. You can see closely right there. You can see it's kind of like a paste. I always open my bag of chips like this. Like Michael ends up like going like this and ripping it to the side. I know, but it's just so much nicer. Like, who opens their bags like this? Only barbarians. You gotta open it like this so it's nice and clean. Look at that. See? That's how you open a bag. There you go. Look at that. These are like your standard shrimp chips if you've had the regular flavor. They're actually pretty delicious. They're one of my favorite types of chips in itself. I just like love the standard flavor, but now you got the yuzu kosho. I can taste the freshness. It's like spring all over again. All over again. I guess there's seasons. This like brings you back into spring. It has that nice kind of refreshing crunchy shrimp flavor taste, and at the end it has a little bit of spiciness, not like super spicy, but it still has that like little spicy kick to it. I like it.
すっごい匂い。あ、すっごい匂い。今ファってやったらブワってきた。So I never really like Ebisen. Ebisen's one of the like oldest chips, but like this is like a really good flavor. Yuzu kosho is my favorite thing, and you know. This flavor is not so strong, even though it says koime. I'm like feeling it in like here. The like shrimp is here.
By the entrance? Or
And apparently it has a lot of calcium.
Number 6, almond chocolat. So this next one is actually one of Maiko's favorites. So let's open this almond chocolat. Pull it out to the side like this. And it comes in these little wrapped packages. 35 calories all in. Oh, did you know you're supposed to actually open it up like this? Maybe you like to serve it to people? Would you like an almond chocolat? Looks like they took some chocolate, they kind of like melted it into this little tray here, and then on top of it you have like crushed almonds, and then it has some caramel. It almost kind of has like a peanut brittle effect to it. Like it can almost taste like the sugar crystals like just grinding on your teeth when you bite. And if you ever kind of had almond roca, it almost has that kind of flavor. It's not like my favorite. That I don't really like almond roca so much. Maybe it's because growing up my mom always had that stuff. Alright, Michael, you talk about it because you love this thing so much.
This is my favorite. It's my desk sweets. That's how I call it. It's always on my desk.
Got a lot of sweet.
At least I have like low carb one now. It's super thin, like on the side, and it's super crispy and love it. Can you hear this?
Crunch, 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 crunch.
I don't like super sweet stuff, but this is full of flavor of almond and caramel. I usually drink latte or have some kind of tea when I'm working. So like I need something like extremely sweet to go with non-sweetened drink. And this is my like sweet thing.
I want to keep this flavor train going, but before we continue, I gotta buy a new baby crib. So I want to thank Bookwalker for sponsoring this video. Without them, I wouldn't be able to make these videos for all of you. If you don't already know, Bookwalker is Kadokawa's official ebook store for digital manga and light novels. And they have over 14,000 English ebooks available on their app, iOS, Android, and web browser. Let me show you some of the titles that I recommend on the global.bookwalker.jp site. Check out unique titles like 7 Shakespeare's, fantasy manga like Attack on Titan, or popular titles like Space Brothers, where you can even browse pages before you buy. Also, if you act soon, you can catch their St. Patrick's Day sale and get 50% off. Get access to Bookwalker's digital manga and light novels today. Check out the link in the description. So choo choo, and let's get back on this flavor train. Number 5. Hobo Cream from Family Mart. For this next one, who wants to get some cream in their mouth? Hobo Cream. This thing is actually called a hobo. This almost looks like a dirty snowball, like that just deflated and it just got some dirt from the side of the road. But in fact, that is some chocolate dusty dust. It's like a bag of cream. Let me just open this up for you guys and show you. Oh, it's so delicate.
What is that?
I completely messed this up.
God. Oh my god!
This is the worst opening of the cream. Oh, that looks...
Oh, there you go.
Oh man, I'm like getting all over my hands. Oh! That's so good, but it's so delicious. Mmm. So what's nice is that this itself, it has all the cream here. It's like a thick whipped cream. And then you also have some chocolate right there. So you have a chocolate cream as well. And then you have this skin. It's almost kind of like a crepe. It's really like nice and thin. It doesn't like overpower the whole thing. Like it's literally hobo, like almost all cream. So like before this one, I believe it was like a raspberry, like strawberry flavor. That's how I discovered it. This season, they've like discontinued the raspberry strawberry and now they have the chocolate. But hopefully that strawberry raspberry will come back. But this one is actually still pretty good. Don't eat all my cream.
Oh yeah! It has like a chocolate chip, like chocolate chip crunches. I love how like thin that skin is, but the skin actually has that like mochi mochi texture. I almost want to eat it all.
Number 4. UFO Curry Yakisoba. What's that? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? It's a UFO! This is one of UFO's unidentified flying objects. Recent release. It is their curry flavor and it is the bomb-ass rap song all the kids are talking about. It's got that yum yum, if you know what I'm talking about, Mr. Bieber. You don't know the song from... Can you sing it with a little bit more passion? That's like the worst food I've ever had. Like basically, if you've never had yakisoba, what you do is you actually put some hot water in it first. You let it sit for a little bit. Then you drain the water. Then you put the yakisoba sauce. But what sets this one apart is that you actually get like a special curry sauce that you put on top of it after you've mixed all the yakisoba sauce. And this is the final presentation. Look at that. So if you like yakisoba and you love curry, then this is something you definitely need to try. Oh, do you want to do like the Dalmatians thing with me?
No.
No?
And by the way, it's not Dalmatian.
What's not
It's a different movie.
Oh. What is it? What kind of dogs were they?
I don't know in English.
Let me know in the comments if you guys remember what. Well, you knew what I was talking about.
So this is actually my first time trying this, but UFO is my favorite instant yakisoba noodles. Thank Oh yeah, it's like a light curry flavor, but still more on the yakisoba side, I feel like. なんかもっとカレーがガツンってくるのかなと思ったら、it's like a soft, nice curry.
It's like they just put a little bit of curry powder on it.
Yeah.
Number 3, Marugoto Kotsubu Ichigo no Hitokuchi Ice. So going along with the spring collection theme, we're gonna continue with this bite-sized, fun-packed strawberry flavor surprise. Moist and bubbly at the top. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. The cows have come home to.
Okay. So yeah, seasonal conveni delicacies, always worth checking out. Let me share my screen with you. My internet has been really iffy today, so if it fizzles out, I'm gonna have to shut everything down and then log back in, but we'll hope that that does not happen. Let's see, screen share. PowerPoint. Okay, so day 2 for Konbini Ningen, or convenience store worker. Let's get this loaded right here. Whoa. No. What? Let's see. I don't really need power or subtitles, but let's see what happens here. Current slide. I don't know, just ignore that part. Are we able to ignore that? Sorry, I'm gonna have to turn this off. Subtitles off. All right, there we go. Play from current slide. Okay, so day 2 of convenience store woman. So just a couple announcements before we jump into presentation. Please sign up for a presentation slot for next week. And if you've not signed up for next Tuesday, people are really gonna need to know which day they're prepared for. So I will assign you a slot and email that slot to you. And again, if you can't come to either day, please let me know by that same Tuesday so that we can make other arrangements, because I do have to turn grades in on the 28th. And so there's not a lot of time to mess with at the end of the week. Also, don't forget your comments on discussion posts. And as you comment, just make sure that you're responsive to what that person actually says. It's not an occasion to write an entirely different topic or it's not a response paper. You should really show that you're engaging with what they're saying. You can not just evaluating, saying that it's great or it's amazing, but actually the way to show that it's great and amazing is to show that you're responding to the intellectual work that they're doing. So stay on topic. And lastly, the ID quiz number 2 I did it today, and it's on it'll be up at 5 o'clock today and then available till midnight tomorrow. And again, it is closed book and closed note. The format is basically the same, except this time it's 1 question at a time. Okay, so the same number of points, same types of questions.
Professor? Oh, yeah. Will it be on timer again for 15 minutes?
Yes, 15 minutes.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah, but you're gonna go sequentially this time. So it's the same matching and then short answer and then chronological order kind of questions, but 1 at a time this time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So today, Robert is going to talk us through this a little bit of an article, which is a participation observer article by an anthropologist who's an anthropologist of convenience stores, and talk about how he understands this space sort of conceptually through an anthropological lens. And then we'll turn back to convenience store and look at some passages and return to those 2 ideas that we started to talk about yesterday, the convenience store as crossroads of potential and possibility, like a place where anything can happen and anyone can come in, and also as a place of normality, where norms are both established for the narrator Keiko, and these norms are also kind of transgressed when this antagonist, sort of rom-com antagonist, protagonist of Shiraha comes in. Okay. So I wanted to point out, Robert, this may be of interest to you in your comparison, that Seven & i Holdings, which owns 7-Eleven, which is kind of regarded as the Cadillac of convenience stores, they've bought a chain in the US, Speedway, which is located at gas stations. And the market is kind of tapped out in Japan of convenience stores, or that's the feeling anyway, because of population decline. And at the same time, so they're seeking expansion. And many of you who have traveled in other Asian cities, I've been to like Japanese convenience stores in Taipei and other places. They're already exist in Asian cities, but they're going to be maybe at a rest stop near you in the very near future. This is just August 3rd of this year. Okay, so I think Robert's going to show us a lot of images, so maybe we don't need to do the brief tour of a convenience store. So we'll turn directly to Robert's presentation and let him jump in and take us through.
Okay, give me a second to share my screen. Okay, Professor, can you see my PowerPoint?
I can, and yeah, looks good to me. Anyone else having issues seeing things? And anyone else, if you have volume troubles, I'm hearing okay, but if you have trouble, please raise your hand or say so in the chat. So yeah, take it away.
Okay, today I'm going to be doing my presentation on the Japanese convenience store. I'm Robert Gold. I'll be your host for the next several minutes. This is the Japanese experience, taking convenience to a whole nother level. Convenience stores. Let's first talk about the American experience, right? What's the most convenient thing you've ever done at 7-Eleven, right? Use the restroom? Just kidding, they're out of order. Paid $3.50 to get 10 bucks out of the ATM? Bought $100 in lottery tickets? Get a Slurpee when it's 180 degrees outside? Buying contraceptives? Having to ignore a hipster on your way out of the store? Now let's talk about, now that I've given you the American experience of convenience stores, let's talk about the Japanese experience a little bit, right? What can you do at a Japanese convenience store that you couldn't necessarily do at your local American one? You can buy concert tickets. You can register to vote. You could discard your recyclables. And if you're afraid that maybe, for example, say you're in the middle of Tokyo and you only got 1% left on the battery on your phone, don't worry, you can charge that phone inside that convenience store. You could even make photocopies in that Japanese convenience store. You could pay your utility bills in that Japanese convenience store so you don't end up like this poor woman right here. You could order flowers in that Japanese convenience store. You could send your mail in that Japanese convenience store. You could even use the restroom in that Japanese convenience store, and then you'll be as happy as this guy right here. That's my cousin. Now that you've experienced both the American and the Japanese convenience store, how would you rate your experience? Please, I'm open to Q&A. I'm gonna, anyone wanna, if anyone can unmute yourselves and tell me what you think, whether you would wanna go to a Japanese convenience store or an American convenience store. You can also just call on people. I'll do a 10-second countdown in my head before I...
How would you compare the food between the Japanese convenience store and American convenience store?
Well, sir, let me just give you my best politician's answer right here. I love Japanese convenience store food. It's my favorite, right? I think it's great, right? Because I've been there hundreds of billions of times, right? Throughout the course of my life. suffers not just eating Mexican food every time they go to 7-Eleven. But the Japanese convenience store, it's like going to Hibachi. You know what I mean? It's like going to it's going to Honest, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Hey, Robert, you were lost. We lost you there for a minute. Your last like 1 minute after your question. So, because the internet seems to be.
I was. Oh, you didn't hear me when I was calling on you, Professor? I was asking you to, because I was giving my best politicians.
Oh, okay. No, I can show a little quick tour of the convenience store after you're finished, because I realized that it may be new information to people, but yeah, I did miss that. I think everyone missed the last minute or so, but you can just jump in right now to your next slide, maybe.
Oh, okay. Someone asked about how good Japanese convenience store food was, and I was telling them that you'd actually lived in Japan.
Okay.
So I was saying that you could be the best one to answer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we can talk about it afterwards. Like there's some, I mean, a range of options even around Riverside actually of getting fast food, maybe not the 100% convenience store experience, but just different aspects of it. Yeah. So, but go ahead.
Okay, guys, she loves it. It's her favorite. She loves Japanese convenience store food. Case closed. Japanese convenience stores are 100 times better than American convenience stores. Guys, that's why we never do Q&As. Okay. All right. Moving right along. Okay, what's my next slide? Keeping my energy up because I love all of you. Okay, this is Gavin Whitelaw, everybody, with a name that could be a house in Game of Thrones. So Gavin Whitelaw is the guy who wrote his dissertation, right, on his experiences working in a Japanese convenience store, right? So he did an entire year where he, and oh, by the way, the professor wanted me to mention this. He's an anthropologist. So when he did his experiences there, when he did his time there, he was looking at the entire thing from the perspective of globalization, how this affects commerce, the world of food, work, and consumer culture. And now he's a professor at Harvard University. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. This is another picture of Gavin Whitelaw. This was in his first few months working there. Funny thing was, he started out working there as a volunteer, right? And then a few months went by, and it was Christmas time, and he had to wear a Santa Claus suit to promote the seasonal foods they were selling. And they said, you know what, dude, you're wearing a Santa Claus suit. This is getting ridiculous. We might as well start paying you. You know, when I did my internship at McDonald's and they made me put the Easter Bunny suit on, they were like, you know what, we might as well start paying you, Robert. Okay, this is an actual picture of Daily Yamazaki, the actual there's 14 stores, I believe, in Japan. It's a national chain, right? And there's a lot going on here, right? A lot more than you might see in front of a 7-Eleven, right? There's a motorcycle off to the right. There's a washing machine off to the left. There's 7 different brands of gum being advertised. There's a bunch of words on the front of the door that I can't read that look like hieroglyphics to me, but mean something to somebody. This is okay. So getting into a little bit about the concept of language, right? So when you have a shared community, when you have a shared subculture, right? When you have a group of people that are part of a similar identity, you have, whether it's the military, whether you have, for example, a bunch of people that are forced to live in prison together, even if you have a bunch of teenagers that are texting each other, right? Ghosting each other, Netflix and chilling with each other, getting lit together, you know what I mean? All groups have their own shared language. They have their own made up terminologies, right? It is no different in the world of Japanese clerkship. Even the Japanese convenience store employees have their own sense of shared language that they have together as it becomes, as sort of like in the novel, their clerkship, their job becomes their sense of identity. This is a term that Gavin Whitelaw, he coins at the end of his dissertation. Language is another critical site of clerk embodiment, right? So their careers or their identities as convenience store workers become something that they begin to embody. Like I was saying. So this is so now I'm going to give you examples of some of the vernacular, right? Some of the language that he talks about that they used in the convenience store. A back room became the word backyard. This is just a picture of my closet that I took for you guys. This is okay. The word store shelves became gondola, right? This is unfortunately this is a woman shopping during COVID-19. The term drink refrigerator, right, became reach in. I have too big of a butt and way too small of a mini fridge to do what this guy is doing, but I am very jealous of his receding hairline. Okay, moving on. The term store staff became crew, right? This is just a picture of a bunch of my uncles. Actually, wait, no, that's the cast of Jersey Shore. Okay, this is the term store computer, and I'm gonna butcher this next word. Became a pseudo-icon, right? That's me with every PC I ever owned before I bought a MacBook, or when I turn in one of my assignments late. Okay, counting all up the money in the till became, okay, Regieton, no one shoot me, please. This is a guy wearing, I think that's Calvin Klein or maybe Versace. This is the term collapsible plastic containers became Oriacon. Okay, you know what? That's just a picture of me moving some stuff around my house. Okay, the term workers, instead of saying daily Yamazaki every single day, they just use the term daily because, guys, Yamazaki is a long word. That's like 3 syllables. You don't want to keep saying Yamazaki all day long. So they just refer to it as daily, right? Okay, my final slide before I let all of you unwilling victims go. This is the novel, which I got a chance to read on Audible, which I'm legally required to say because they sponsored this PowerPoint presentation. This novel, as I put, it deals with a lot of the themes of lingo, identity. There's issues of sexism and harassment in the workplace, right? Always fun. And impersonal familiarity, right? This term impersonal familiarity, I'll get a little bit into, is a term that he coins at the very end of his, Gavin Whitelaw coins at the very end of his dissertation, where he sort of talks about, when you're in a mass culture, right? When you are part of a national chain, right? You don't want to have this sort of cold corporate hand, right? You want people to be able to come to the store and feel welcome, right? When I go into Walmart, because I'm a redneck, I like when there's a greeter in front of the store and they make me feel like, I'm welcome, right? When they make me feel like it's not just a faceless corporation, when they put like, even if you don't recognize the worker because it's a different person every time you come in, you still feel like they're treating you with some level of humanity and hospitality, right? That's a little bit of impersonal familiarity, right? Okay, the last one I want to talk about is identity. And I'll give this one example that kind of correlates between the novel as well as the dissertation, right? So if you were someone who was, example, learning how to speak Spanish or learning how to speak Japanese, or me, trying to learn how to speak Hebrew, but gave up very quickly and changed to a whole new religion. If you were trying to learn a whole new language, then you might start dreaming in that language, right? If you try to learn how to speak Spanish, you might start dreaming in Spanish, right? You might start dreaming of Mexican sheep, you know what I mean? So in the same case, if you had Keiko, right, who's the main character in our novel, right, or Gavin Whitelaw, they both experienced this the same thing of when they went into a convenience store, when they went into a grocery store, they had this sudden need to start rearranging things. Keiko in the novel describes it almost in this poetically romantic way, talking about how the convenience store is talking to her, right? You know what I mean? Because when the convenience store gods talk to you guys, you must answer the call, okay? So they start thinking. So the last part I'll leave you with is their sense of identity, right? Gets wrapped up in every aspect of everything that they approach. And so when they go into a convenience store, they cannot help but remind themselves that their only sense of identity, their most important part of their identity, is as a convenience store human. Thank you. I've been Robert Gold.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to take a second for any questions, Robert?
Oh, well, that went so well before.
Well, you don't have to be responsible for the whole convenience store world, but I think you have a lot of thought. You may be the only one besides me who's read the whole novel, to tell you the truth. And so I think you actually, and you bring a lot of insights because I think this novel sets us up to think about certain things, and then it really goes into a really different direction, and also a weird direction, but one that probably you're the only one who knows how this all ends. So why don't you swing it and see if what people have to say.
Such a talkative class, so we might as well, you know what I mean? I know that all these people are the same kind of type A extroverts than I am.
And always riveted to the screen too, yes, as opposed to having their cameras running. Yeah.
When you call on specific people, they seem to be dead, or have gone deaf somehow over the course of the class period. I mean, anyone can talk if they want to. I'm getting on my knees because I'm gonna pray while we go over during this Q&A. And also
you brought out some good points. I'm going to summarize some of your points in a more academic kind of lingo, right, as we do in our culture of academics. But maybe other people have questions or reactions, comments, whatever.
I mean, I think that my picture of the what did I have pictures? I don't even remember what I did in my presentation. I was drunk the entire time I wrote it. Oh, the guy, the burning car. That's very scholarly, right? Well, is there anything you wanted to comment on, Professor, that might jive people's personalities?
Improvisation. No, that was some good comedy. I can see your training at work here. You even stood up as a stand-up comedian.
Now we're doing now we're doing sit-down comedy again. But
okay, but I would like to, since I think it seemed that many people found it hard to envision what a Japanese convenience store was, and you didn't take us inside from the Daily Yamazaki. And from the signage on there, I could tell that was located in Kyoto in a certain neighborhood. And therefore, all of the foliage outside was a very personal touch. And a lot of these convenience stores, even though they're owned as part of a franchise, have these little personal touches by the franchise owners. Okay, so let me show you this is about a 7-minute tour. And it may get, Kieran, to your question a little bit. It's a kind of tour, it focuses on the food, but I think that's maybe a foodie predisposition of like our viewership from this side of the ocean, because convenience stores, they have batteries, they have underwear, they have all sorts of things that aren't food as well. But so let me show you, where is she? Actually. Sure. We're going to have to suffer a commercial here briefly. there are a number of grades.
Oh no, did your game just get interrupted by an update? It's switching time to a Chrome.
A number of great songs dedicated to convenience stores. So actually the direct address to the convenience store seems to be something of a thing.
Hi everyone, it's Risa. Today I'm here at Konbini. Konbini is shortened for convenience store. コンビニはとっても便利で生活に欠かせない一部となっています。There's more than 6,000 convenience stores in Tokyo and it's normally open for 24 hours. Wow! How convenient. Convenience store is very convenient, but normally it's a little bit expensive than supermarket. And I'm here at Family Mart. I like Family Mart because they have a fresh made cafe latte for 100 yen. There's another popular convenience stores such as 7-Eleven, Lawson. I like Natural Lawson. They normally sell some kind of organic products. In convenience store, you can buy drinks, food, sweets and snacks, ice creams, and there's an ATM as well. And you can do photocopier, so pretty much of everything. Sometimes convenience store has a place to eat, so you can just buy food from the convenience store, then maybe go upstairs to eat bento. Let's go and get it. Oh, Yukimi Daifuku has a seasonal flavor. My favorite is Yukimi Daifuku. These ice creams are Family Mart brand, so you can get only from the Family Mart. I like these drinks, the warm drinks. I like this one. Iemon. Damn. These are the bento boxes, and if you buy bento box, normally they ask you if you need to warm up the bento. You can warm it up. This is 鶏そぼろ弁当。鶏のそぼろと、あと卵と、あとこれ唐揚げかなが入ってます。で、お寿司の中に唐揚げが入ってます。There's fried chicken inside of the sushi bowl. There's many kind of gummies. I recommend you to buy this one, kaju gumi. Fresh strawberry juice, 100%. 100% of fresh strawberry juice. This kaju gumi has different flavors. My favorite is orange and grapes. Kaju gumi. Oh look, natto. Tofu, natto, mekabu. Natto is a fermented beans. I like them. It's healthy. Healthy. There is a can coffee which is collaborated with Star Wars. May the force be with you. Darth Vader. I had enough with you. Oh my god, Meg! Sakura Raspberry Milk. 期間限定のスターバックス桜ラズベリーミルク Cherry Blossom Raspberry Milk。 あ、なんか新しいやつある。これ買ってみよう。 Chai Tea Latte. There's so many different flavors like Tantan Men, Dandan Men, Chili Tomato, Tom Yum Noodle, Curry Noodle. Oh, this one is quite famous one, Afri, Yuzu. They are quite popular for people from overseas. My favorite cup ramen. I normally don't really eat cup noodles because I know it's not really good for your health, but I don't know.
Kamiwa Premium Series.
Yeah. Ooh, this looks nice. I like this gyuhi. すいません。
はい
カフェラテ一つください。
ホットカフェラテあり
ホットカフェラテで。
150円でございます。
はい、パスモで払えますか？
はい。少々お願いします。そし どうぞどうですか。
はい、
ありがとうございました。
まず置いて、カフェラテなんかすごい出てくるんだけどカフェラテ Press the button. I'm gonna put sugar in it あとの方がやっぱいいか、それとしていつもそうやってやるからさで砂糖とかいろいろあるから砂糖を入れて、あといろんなこういうココアシュガーとかキャラメルシュガー、バニラシュガー、キャラメルとかあるので好きなのを味付けできます。ココアに。
Okay, I'm gonna stop here. What you can really get from her tour at the convenience store is just how people have their little obsessions, right? She's really into these lattes and into the condiments thing. And each store has its own kind of set of specialties. Family Mart is known for its fried chicken. What else? 7-Eleven has better onigiri. 7-Eleven's a little more classy than the other two. Prices are all set nationally, as in with many Japanese commodities. So, and you won't see a whole lot of difference. Lawson has their own. Lawson Farm. Yeah, Lawson has their own whole kind of sub chain called Lawson Natural. What's Lawson Farm, PJ? Is it an actual farm?
I'm not really sure. I just saw it on a YouTube video about like this vlogger. He was just talking about like all the convenience stores in Japan, and then I remember that like they went to Lawson Mart, I think, or I forgot what it's called, and they said like Lawson is like the only one that has like local produce because they have like a farm that they like plant the fruit produce.
Yeah, some of the chains definitely are going towards sustainability. Muji, you probably know Muji, like that sells kind of neutral colored furniture and school supplies. There's one at Hollywood and Highland in LA, and they're regarded as very fashionable here, but they're just kind of utilitarian in Japan. But they had this whole kind of R&D wing in Chiba, which is near the Narita airport, where a lot of farmland was, where they're doing kind of good design, sustainable architecture and stuff. So I can imagine, yeah, Lawson, because they have this whole health food chain, the Lawson Naturals, that they would be into that. And that would be a welcome addition because most of this convenience store is like there's so much food there's so much sodium in it that like a lot of convenience store workers actually end up getting kind of prematurely like having high blood pressure and things because if you eat that much sodium 3 meals a day, even if you're younger, it's really going to take a toll on your body. That much ramen and that much soy sauce and artificial stuff, it's really going to mess with your health. So, and to put Keiko's sort of livelihood into perspective, I'm not sure. I looked at the wage gap issue yesterday, and one of the reasons that I think Konbini Ningen as a title might be useful is her insistence throughout the book that convenience stores are neither for men or for women, they're just humans, is that there doesn't seem to really be a wage gap in convenience stores. There's currently a measure in the diet to raise the minimum wage to 901 yen, and that's there's roughly 100 yen to the dollar, so that's roughly equating to $9 an hour, right? And Keiko, we know, is a part-time worker, so if she worked 40 hours a week at 900 an hour, that would be 36, like a little under $360 a week. So that's 36 and like 72. That's, I don't know, $1,400 a month roughly. So that's not a lot of money, but she can live part-time, and she also isn't suffering this, it's a 72%. Women typically make in the Japanese market 72% of what men do. They're the second lowest, I mean, if we take across the board in the OECD rankings. And obviously across industries and venues, there are various differences, but the fact that she can live on this salary and kind of do her thing as a part-time worker in a convenience store, it may be partly because there's less discrimination in the convenience store because they always need workers. And so she can kind of make her way through parlay the convenience store into her alternate way of living. About convenience store food, if you guys ever go to Tokyo Central Market, you know, in Yorba Linda or West Covina, they have a lot of stuff that approximates. They have a lot of freshly made food that kind of crosses over a lot with the convenience store. They're not jammed in, and they have a lot more real food and a fish market. But yeah, Tokyo Central, and it's owned by Don Quixote, which is like a combination between Disneyland and Walmart. But they're actually really good Japanese supermarket. You can buy all the normal stuff there. It's Tokyo Central. They must have them in the South Bay as well, and the little Tokyo convenience stores too. But they have a big snack section in Tokyo Central Market as well. So I don't know, Karen, what did you think about the convenience store food?
I've been to I went to Japan for like 2 weeks, and I kind of I lived off of convenience store food for a little bit, and like it's super, like, it's in the name, it's very convenient. Like, you can find, they're like mini Walmarts. You can find like everything there. And like I've been to a Don Quixote too, and it's like you can find a bunch of like interesting little things, and like I think it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of stores. Like, you can literally get everything, so it's pretty cool.
Right, yeah, Don Quixote is pretty wild with all sorts of like end lots and like limited editions. The other thing of the conveni is the limited edition, right? Like, for only 6 weeks can you get this special shrimp yuzu potato chip, or this whatever latte with 5 different things in it. So there's always something new. Even if your job is boring and you work in this office tower, you can always kind of sneak out to the convenience store, maybe in your lobby. And they're like, there's one in Immigration, actually in Tokyo, the big immigration, place, the big scary immigration place where everybody has to go. There is a convenience store on the first floor. It's like that kind of normal. And so I'm sure all the people who work there, in addition to all the people who pass through, stop off at the convenience store. Let's go back to PowerPoint. So we talked about, let me translate a little into this kind of bureaucratic language, a couple of things that Whitelaw was getting at. And I think what he was really trying to do was figure out what the role is of the convenience store, because it does exist sort of ubiquitously, both in terms of time, they're open all the time, and in terms of space. They're really, there aren't things like bodegas or corner stores so much of the independent variety in Japan. It's conveni pretty much have things kind of locked up in most towns, unless you get out to the kind of far-flung islands. But he invents this category that's called the impersonal familiarity, that kind of scriptedness that is this kind of cat and mouse game of politesse sometimes, but that which you always, you know what you're going to get out of your transaction. Even if most people in Tokyo don't even say thank you, they just kind of grab their change and leave. That there's also, it's a small price to pay for customer service. And it's a small price to pay to be an alpha person. If you're not an alpha person in real life, you can be one at the convenience store, because the clerks are really obligated to provide a certain kind of customer service to you. Although they can do things like they can play little tricks on you, but giving you all your change in 5 yen coins, or, whatever it is they want to do, as long as they're not totally violating the rules, they can creatively enforce the rules in a lot of different ways. And the reason that Whitelaw wrote this article is that he felt like a lot of people were really dismissive of convenience stores, because they don't realize the true roles that not only as infrastructure that convenience stores play, but as kind of spaces of encounter. Its centrality in daily life. Because like and when policy changes happen at convenience stores, because they're so ubiquitous, things like food waste, a lot of the food waste campaigns kind of began in convenience stores, because so much food that has to be sold on deadline is sold at convenience stores. And there's just, in America, I think half of food is wasted or thrown away, and it's not quite as much in Japan, but there's a fairly large amount. And some of the convenience stores have taken the lead in trying to reduce food waste and to do eco things. So that may fall in with the Lawson's farm. Anyway, yeah, and the notion of convenience, what convenience means to people at a convenience store, just all the unthinking things that you can do, and at its kind of centrality, and how high people have really high expectations of what they want out of their convenience store, and people have their obsessions, like which one has the best fried chicken, which one has the best Christmas cake. You know, people have very strong opinions about convenience stores. Okay, so Robert mentioned something like Murata's very romantic attitude towards the convenience store, and I wanted to share with you her afterword to this novel, because we don't get to actually this is a kind of letter that she wrote. Yeah, it's appended to the back of the novel, and it was also published independently. But it's her kind of apostrophe, meaning a direct address to the convenience store. It is kind of really framed in the genre of the love letter, and it's really kind of sweet, because it kind of frames for us how much of the convenience store is kind of a coming of age story for Keiko. She calls herself reborn, right, when she begins working at the convenience store, and it's, I think, 17 or 18 years. So, I mean, the age of voting in Japan is now 20, but 18 is roughly, you know, it's getting towards being the age of legal adulthood, and certainly old enough to live on your own. But she writes this letter, this very earnest letter from the point of view of the author, the author who herself worked in the convenience store for 18 years. And just the way that she addresses it as a person who has this catalyzing role in humanizing her is really touching. I think I was 18 when we met. I thought you were really scary to begin with. You were so grown up, and I thought you wouldn't have time for the likes of me. I always felt nervous with you, ... I don't suppose either of us could pinpoint the exact moment we fell in love. If I had to hazard a guess, I would probably say it was that night when we were together at 2 a.m. for the first time. So right, she's working it too. So she's sort of casting this story of being a part-time worker as a romance with this other being, right? I was thrilled by the scent of the summer's night on the air that came flowing into you. It's really kind of interesting revision. And it concludes here by saying, well, boy, she goes on in my ellipses here to talk about developing like this incredibly passionate and erotic relationship with the convenience store. So, which is interesting to imagine. But she concludes by saying, we'll be having another date, meaning she's got to work tomorrow morning. She's going to wear a new dress. Make sure you're clean, even inside the refrigerator. Yeah, and then, you know, respecting the purity of their relationship so far, she looks forward to that next day, which is this kind of beautifully absurdist framing of, I think, Keiko's, or, you know, her sort of persona of Keiko, the kind of romance of coming of age, the way that she knows her own growing up vis-a-vis the transactions and the encounters that she has within the convenience store. Okay, so we talked about the ideas of normality yesterday, that crossroads idea, the way that it provides this kind of sensory world for her, and then the idea that convenience stores, like in a cruel world for both Keiko and for Shiraha, neither of whom really has a place where they feel comfortable in their families, right? The convenience store, for their respective reasons, offers this potential. Okay, so look at Keiko's life as a child, and then look at like how she articulates this idea of being normal, okay? And so Keiko's life as a child is seems to be a constant series of misunderstandings, right? When she enters school as this kind of key institution, and this constant series of teachers' meetings in which her mother has to go in and apologize, right? And her kind of lack of understanding what's happening, and lack of understanding of other people's sorts of emotions and why they get so upset at her category mistakes, like her mistaking the dead bird for a piece of yakitori, right? And sort of that her inability to understand boundaries as well. And then similarly, when she's introducing herself, it's interesting how she manipulates the kind of description of her family, because she also uses sort of tells lies about her family and about an supposed traumatic past, when she really actually, her family was very kind to her. She's often says, but that she uses it to stave off her bosses and her coworkers when they're always constantly trying to figure out why she does things strangely. And then she sort of chalks it up to her traumatic life. In the Japanese, it's kate no jijo ga aru, like there are strange circumstances in her family. And so everyone kind of backs off and doesn't pressure her. But in this quote here at the beginning, she says, I never meant to make them sad or have to keep apologizing for things. So I decided to keep my mouth shut. I would no longer do anything of my own accord and would either just mimic what everyone was saying or simply follow instructions, right? So this is her telling retrospectively this idea of the instructions. And we talked yesterday about the genre of the manual and how meaningful it was to her, I think, because it offers various ways of breaking down reality in a way that seems systematic and like they make sense. They make the chaos of daily life make sense, and they offer different kinds of scenarios that may play out. And there's a comfort in having a reference book that contains all the possible scenarios in the world, so that like you minimize your chances of doing something that falls outside the bounds of that conceptual world. If you understand those conceptual rules, in theory, in that world, you're never gonna have to make someone apologize for you or have to apologize for yourself. And one thing to notice is in her part-timeness is that, you know, she tries to work hard, but her boss won't let her because there are these legal regulations about giving her time off. And her, what was I going to say about her being a part-time worker? I forget. I guess not born. Anyway, she's a part-time worker, and she has the level of loyalty to the company. Just she's extremely loyal to this company. Would you say, guys, in her job? The examples of, like, she works on holidays. Yeah. Yeah, PJ, anything come to mind? Yeah, 18 years, right?
And they say that she never like really is late, or she doesn't really take time off from, she's like always pretty consistent.
Yeah, she doesn't really take off time even for the major holidays, right? She's like, win-win situation. She can work and then she doesn't have to answer to her family. Yeah. And yeah, anything else? She and a number of managers have cycled through during the time that she's been there, right? Manager, she knows the manager profiles quite very well, but she herself doesn't really advance in the company, right? She seems to stay at the same level as a worker without ever getting a promotion, right? So despite that, she remains very loyal to the company until the end, where things go a little different. Okay, so very loyal person.
There was a one line where she says something about like the manager gives her like a compliment, and she just explains like how that means the world to her. Like she's just jumping over the moon for like one little compliment.
Right. And you get the sense that people have been promoted over her too, right? Like Mrs. Izumi, right?
Yeah, isn't it the girl who like she's like trusted to go to the bank?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so she has this huge responsibility, and you can obviously tell that Keiko is very jealous.
Right. But yeah, she just kind of, if it's not in the manual, she doesn't do it. So she doesn't, there's nothing in the manual about how to complain to your boss or how to negotiate yourself a raise. Okay, so I wanted to look at there's two different words that are used for the normal that she's sort of describing. I mean, the one place where she and Shiraha converge is in their kind of mutual, if different, suspicion of so-called normal society, right? And there's two different words, and one of these words is used about various kinds of systems. Like if you say the highways are operating in a normal pace, it's like Seijo Dori here. So it's like about systems. And then there's normal, like regular, like typical. So there's this, for her, a kind of convergence between normal as in all systems go and normal as in regular. And so here she's talking about the system of the convenience store, saying the morning period. And this is the passage in which she likens herself to a cog, right? And a cog is, part in a large functioning machine, right? The morning period is passing in the brightly lit box of the convenience store, visible outside the windows, polished free of fingerprints, are the figures of people rushing by. The start of another day, the time when the world wakes up and the cogs of society begin to move. I am one of those cogs going round and round. I've become a functional part of the world, rotating in the time of day called morning. Yeah, and it is really it's kind of lyrical at the same time that, morning, the sort of dawn metaphor is subordinated to the machine metaphor here too. And then the second kind of normal that she mentions that's continued here is describing her family. That this idea of being a normal person, atmosphere returns to normal. There's this kind of sense that the equilibrium is really, pressure to equilibrate is really strong in the convenience store. And when she talks about all this normal, what are the pressures that you think, or the kinds of ideas about normal, and why is she so obsessed with normal?
Because she struggles with being able to fit in with normal society, where as a kid she just, I don't know, either just has these violent tendencies, or even as an adult, when she lets Shiraha live with her, she thinks of him as a pet animal who lives in her bathtub. And then when his sister-in-law comes over, he's like, oh well, I don't know if I even fed it today. You know what I mean? She has this weird distorted sense of reality. I don't know if it's just they never go into whether it's any sort of health or mental issues or anything like that, but she certainly really, really struggles with being able to see the world in, I don't know, a way that you or I might.
Yeah, she very sincere and sort of committed to understanding what these rules are, and many of them kind of revolve around family and marriage, right? What are some of the ways that the idea of normality surfaces with, for instance, between Keiko and her sister, or Keiko and her family, or Keiko and her high school friends when she goes to those reunion type gatherings?
She ends up when she goes to all of her family get-togethers, everyone because her sister, I believe, just had a baby, so she has a nephew, and she is the only maybe one in her family who has she kind of makes it pretty clear in the book that she's asexual, so she has no intentions of having children or getting married, and no intention of really doing anything with getting a better job or moving on to something more like a career. So while everyone else is pressuring her to have a boyfriend or get married or have children, she's just that's why she lets Shiraha live with her, because she wants people to think that he's her boyfriend, so that people think that she's doing all the things that a normal woman might do, that these things that are societally expected of women, to reproduce and to get married and have a man and become, I mean, it's kind of degrading because women aren't cattle. They're not just meant to reproduce. If she wants to spend the rest of her life in her career, that's totally cool. But everyone else makes it seem like her real job is motherhood, which she fundamentally rejects.
Right. Yeah. Right. And there's a sense that there should be a next in her life, always a next. Yeah. That something should be profoundly dissatisfying about where she is now. Let's look at Shiraha, because this is kind of like a textbook example of, you know, the rom-com setup, right? Any sort of romantic comedy that you've ever seen, you know, features a female protagonist who's sort of, you know, checked out and not really, kind of indifferent to romance, and then comes a hero of some sort. And in Japanese literature, there's a long and very entertaining history of the disagreeable hero, of the hero who is just so ridiculous that it becomes very clear that the author really wants you to disidentify from the hero and to criticize everything that he's saying, and therefore to kind of hold up the virtue of the heroine. An example of that is the novel called 17, which almost got the author, Oe Kenzaburo, who won the Nobel Prize. It almost got him murdered because he wrote a first-person novel about a young fascist youth who masturbated all the time and became a spokesperson in Shinjuku Station for an extremist right-wing political party. So Oe, and he was very disagreeable in his family. And so Oe sort of layered together all of these private habits and these of so-called perversion, and these public habits of so-called perversion, like belonging to a extreme white fascist party, layered them all together in this one person. And he himself almost got, like, there was an attempt on his life by the right wing after he published this novel. So there's this long tradition of making the disagreeable hero so disagreeable that no one wants to be this person because he's so obviously, undesirable. But so in this novel, it sort of looks at the outset like he's going to be that person because he has this kind of weird dogma about the Stone Age, which seems very eccentric for someone who's fairly young, who's like 35 years old. So this typical rom-com setup, right? And what did you guys think of Shiraha in his first encounter? He walks in, and when we think of Keiko as a casual employee, we mean that she's casually employed by the company at an X number of hours. When Shiraha enters and he's a casual employee, I think it means something really different. Right? He's casual in a whole different way. So what's Shiraha's persona like entering the convenience store? Like, okay, so all the things you're supposed to do, think of the manual, the way you're supposed to dress, the way you're supposed to address people, the way you're supposed to do all of the many miniaturist tasks of the convenience store.
He just doesn't care and doesn't want to be there, and like he's super lazy and doesn't even do his job. Like when they look at the video cameras, he just doesn't actually do anything, and he keeps comparing it to the Stone Age.
Right. Anybody else? He's got a lot of intellectualizing of his place in life. But he's also very skinny, right? And he seems to be quite vulnerable in certain ways. He's really skinny. His clothes hang on him. His teeth are not looking so good. So he looks like he's been sort of neglected in some way. That he's got something else going on besides being just a pure antagonist, that he has these kind of vulnerabilities himself. Let's look. And it turns out that he's been kicked out of his own house, essentially, right? He lived in a shared apartment, which is not very common at all in Japan. In the US, lots of people have roommates from college age forward, but that's only becoming kind of known in Japan as a thing to do in the last 3 or 4 years, so-called share houses. And he's been in a share house, and then he got kicked out because he couldn't pay his rent, and then he went home and he got kicked out again. So the fact that he washes up in a convenience store is also pretty interesting as a parallel to Keiko, right? That neither of them has a place to go. Like she doesn't really have a place to go sort of ontologically in terms of what she's doing. And he doesn't have a place to go like literally, right? Like he's been bounced out of his own house, his own family's house. And yeah, he can't pay his rent. He's broke too. Right. So let's look at his cultural anthropology. So the idea, Stone Age, okay, the reason that Stone Age, it's just translated from the Japanese term of Jomon era, and the Jomon era is, it's about all this material culture. It's got a real sensibility to it, but the key point about it is that it's a nomadic thing. And it's before people settle and before they, put down roots. It's before agriculture, basically. So it's about how you can have a culture without having a settled, fixed place of existence. So it kind of makes sense that he himself is a wanderer, or wanders and doesn't really actually have a specific place to live. This Jomon era, of the two ancient eras, if you would have said the other one, it would have been a lot more like settled in place, kind of bougie, maybe with a secret life in a townhouse or something that he fell afoul of. But here it gives him this sort of past as a wanderer before settlement. Okay, so he has this kind of bizarro cultural anthropology and gender theory, right? And what I think is really interesting is that Keiko she keeps trying to train him, right? And to kind of domesticate him in a way by just reminding him and supervising him and trying to instruct him about how the world is supposed to work. She's trying to acculturate him in the way that she thinks, she would have wanted someone to acculturate her as well. Right. But what do you guys think of his his theory?
I think he's an incel. He's like the kind of guy that you would meet on 4chan or like Reddit. He's definitely like the kind of guy who would have like voted for Trump like out of just spite for women. He has this real just very misogynistic, like sexist attitude about how the world should work. Like aside from that, which is kind of ironic, because he wants Keiko to take care of her simultaneously while he's talking about like how he's talking about like hunters and gatherers, but or he also talks about like how he wants revenge. He's like kind of like this anti-feminist in the sense that he wants to get revenge on women by like the fact that women have mooched off men for so long, so now he wants to finally mooch off of a woman. So he's a real swell guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he definitely has his history about the sexual division of labor, and right, his manual is pretty different than Keiko's manual too. Anybody else sort of thoughts?
His manual is probably like Mein Kampf or something,
but nonetheless, she responds to him, right? She as much as we can like label his ideologies or pathologize him in certain ways, and the novel's really funny. It's a little stiff in English, but it's really funny just how there's always a beat before in Japanese when she responds. So she kind of takes it all in, and then she just kind of responds to him like contradicting him, but she never really tries to smash him, or kind of negate him. And she kind of draws him and all of his theories out. Yeah. But her theory here is quite different. She's really quite utopian. I mean, he's very backward looking, right? And it's all gone to shit, things haven't changed, but things are terrible. Where she says, look, this is the 21st century. Things have changed, things are different now. And this is a really utopian kind of spot for her. And here I think of the, 72% on the dollar, or, whatever the yen equivalent is. Here in the convenience store, we're not men and women, we're all store workers. So that sense of genderlessness for her has this real kind of labor identity as well. We're not just male workers or female workers. We're workers, and thus Konbini Ningen for me has that sort of register that work is something that provides you an identity and allows you to sculpt that identity in whatever way that you want to. You don't have to be at the mercy of the identities that you're kind of received tradition that you inherit from your parents, and work may not be an egalitarian space, and she may be deceiving herself to some extent, but that she certainly does have this interesting imaginative scheme of how to liberate herself from these traditional gender roles by hard work. And so I wonder if this accounts for how hard she works. It's kind of, as hard as she works, maybe she's kind of creating her own space identity, despite the fact that she's not getting paid as much as a lot of other people. She sort of seems to be a sort of trade-off for having her imagination is free, even if her pocketbook is not that fat. So, yeah, he's got he's got some different ideas. All right, so I'm kind of curious. Yeah, any thoughts about Shiraha, or that the way why is she so committed to this to this space? And do you think what do you think is going to happen to her in the end? Happy ending. Okay, she, long story short, she adopts Shiraha basically, and she kind of does treat him like a pet, and he very begrudgingly sort of accepts all of her gifts. She starts bringing him all the leftovers, the dented cans and things, and things went smoothly. So she has this alternative kind of weird relationship, but things go better for her at the convenience store. Feeding him costs more money, and she has to work some more, right? And so, yeah, the sort of link between her different gender identity and having to work hard, that continues to go kind of hand in hand. Her boss is not so into it, however. And they are, however, really freaked out and intrigued and want to know all the dishy gossip when they find out that they are in fact living together. So what do you guys think? How many people what do you think happens in the end? What are the potentials for a happy ending here? Do they get together, do you think? Does she decide that she's had enough with the convenience store? Does she want to get married? What do you think? Kind of.
I could pretend like I don't know what happens at the end and just.
Yeah, spill it, Robert.
Well, can I say what I thought was going to happen? Because I wrote down notes. I had my predictions of what I thought was going to happen before I knew I could. My prediction was that I thought that there were two endings. There was either one where they do maybe eventually fall. They're living together, and then it's kind of it becomes a rom-com, and maybe they fall in love, and maybe we see that he's not such a men's rights activist red pill. You know what I mean? Maybe he starts to grow a heart. You know what I mean? Or maybe starts to transform as a character, and that would be the best case scenario, that they can end up having a happy marriage, and maybe she's not really asexual after all. The alternative ending that I thought was she's gonna dump this weirdo and then become a manager back at a different convenience store. She'll turn her job into a career. Neither of those things end up happening.
Yeah, so tell us what happens.
Okay, well, the very last line is, he's kind of well, I'll just say she kind of very poetic, kind of because the writer likes to use this poetic language and kind of romanticize this kind of working class proletariat story. She says I look into the mirror. And I think the metaphor in literature of when I look into or she talks about when she says mirror, she means when she looked into the glass at the hospital window where her nephew was born. And I think she finally accepts who she is and stopped trying to meet societal expectations. Like, I'm gonna cry. So she decides that she's gonna stop trying to be who she's not, stop trying to be a different person than who she really is. And she just accepts that even if people think that it's weird that I don't wanna get married or have kids or find like a career that other people think is respectable, I enjoy working I enjoy being a convenience store woman. And so that metaphor of looking into the glass window at the hospital is her finally accepting herself for who she is.
All right, yeah. And she does walk and she does look for another job, right? And maybe it's strongly suggested at another convenience store. So maybe many doors left open. But yeah, such is the story of, and the ways that she refuses to self-commodify, I think are quite, or the decisions she makes about commodifying herself, right? Because one of the reasons she decides, she wants to be a line in the manual, but there are ways of commodifying herself as a part of like her family sort of story, and the social capital that her family places on her really kind of different. Yeah, she stays being the eccentric aunt instead of being the mother. Yeah, but she refuses to kind of thingify herself, despite being a convenience store worker. And she doesn't work, as much as she is loyal to her company, she does work 20, 25 hours a week, and she can support herself. And so she has a lot of free time, which in contemporary Tokyo is really rare, actually. Be able to support yourself, live on your income, working part-time in the center of the city is, time is a very valuable commodity. And so it's pretty savvy way of solving that social problem, I think. Yeah. And any observations, final thoughts about convenience store woman? Sophie, did you want to talk about her kind of affect, the way that it, given your own part-time employment?
Yeah, let me pull up my chat with the list of things. Okay, so I was saying that like the main character kind of has like some, like she shows signs of autism in some way. So like I work in special ed, so like a lot of times I will like overanalyze people when it comes to like the autism spectrum. So I have like a list of things. So she like thoroughly analyzes situations and people. She doesn't like change. Like she points out 100 times probably that the store never changes. She lacks social skills, as we can tell through her childhood. There's like a scene where she fixates on the noises and she can tell you like every noise in the store. She's like super blunt about everything that she says. And then it's kind of interesting that her parents want to cure her. Like it's just an interesting way to go about describing it. And she's also like a perfectionist, like you said earlier. She won't do anything that's not in the manual. So I don't know. I mean, I was just like, it's not like, I'm like, oh, she has autism. It's just kind of like, there's a lot of things about her that kind of points in that direction, so.
Yeah, thanks. Anyone want to respond to Sophie, that idea?
I thought it was just really like when she was trying to be her normal, I guess. She was like very like mechanic. Like I think there's a passage where she said it's kind of like machine, like she felt like a machine, where it was just kind of like, okay, if you say this, it's like automatically default to, I'm gonna say this. I felt so it was just kind of like very calculated, I guess.
Yeah, and there is a certain relationship she has to authority too that I think some people may find troublesome, right? Because always being told what to do and finding comfort in always being told what to do, that can lead to sort of authoritarian, tendencies, or the capitulation to authoritarian tendencies that are, if you're finding comfort in rules, kind of over much, yeah. yeah, the kind of.
Oh, sorry. Were you saying further?
Go ahead.
I think I said either, it might have been yesterday, the day before. I think I said something about like how in the beginning of the novel, like when she's talking about, like you were saying, she talks about her childhood and she talks about like, hitting people over the head with shovels. And I like said, when I started reading the book, I was like, oh, okay, we're just reading a book about a serial killer, which I was once again wrong about, but it was a good theory. But I thought that would like grow into something. I think that Sophia's probably right, that whether the writer wants to go into it or not, this character probably does have some like sort of, I don't know if it's some sort of like health or mental issues or something of that nature. I think it's like relatively like clear. I think that I don't think that's what the point of the novel's about. So that's why she doesn't want to kind of get into like making sort of what do you call it? Like she didn't want to be making a social commentary about people with autism, because then that would be what you would take away from the book. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be like sort of being okay with like, I don't know, it's like accepting yourself. And if you don't want to meet society's expectations, that's okay. So getting too deep into whatever her mental issues are would kind of make you think that that's what you're supposed to take away from the book. It's like, oh, it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or maybe seeing it as a clinical something as opposed to a state of imagination, because that concluding love letter is just pretty loopy. And they're really in writing the love letter to the convenience store. That doesn't really fit with the autistic sort of judgment. It fits more in the sort of highly stylized self-representation of someone who's very protective of their imagination, I think, but it has a lot of secrets going on, welling up or going on inside. Yeah, but again, she's telling that retrospectively after she's, I think, broken up with the convenience store.
There are like two ways in like when you have a protagonist character who does something that might be considered immoral, or something that's just maybe out of the ordinary, or something that like you might not be able to agree with. There's two ways I feel like sometimes you can like approach it, and it's like one way, like fate for character of the Joker, you could either make him evil or you could make him mentally ill, right? In this case, they decided to make, instead of, they made her they made her possibly like mentally ill.
Yeah, I think it's the different, points and times and places have ways of describing things that they don't understand. And she is genuinely incomprehensible to much of her world. And so attributing that to like a single origin of autism is one way I think our contemporary world might deal with that in kind of a clinical term. In the, 100 years ago, they might have called it hysteria or something. But when most of the world find something incomprehensible and you try and find it like a skeleton key to understanding it, maybe that's, and she does seem to resist that single source sort of explanation to everything. Okay, I think it's about time for us to go. Next time is Mine Okubo, and Roxy is going to, a couple people are going to give presentations. Do you guys have any opinion about who goes first? Those of you who are doing presentations on Mine, I think it's 3 of you.
I think I should go first because since I think I have to talk about her or her artwork. So
yeah, okay. So you'll situate her in a general context of being an artist. Yeah, okay. And Yashan?
I can go after her.
Okay, cool. And then there's one more person. I forgot who it is. Eliza, it's you, isn't it? You can go last. Okay, perfect. We're in agreement. All right, cool. And so what to look for is, have you guys read Mouse, the graphic novel by Art Spiegelman? Yeah, several of you have. Okay, and it's often called the first graphic novel, right, in American history. And so it introduced this category of graphic novel. And Mine Okubo's book was written it was written before that, but and I'm not sort of disputing the idea of Spiegelman and graphic novel, but she uses a really interesting way of organizing her story. It's like on the top, there's illustrations, and on the bottom, there's text. So just look at the image and text relations and see, kind of block out the image and see if the text gives you everything, and then do the reverse and block out the text and see if the image gives you everything, just as an experiment to see how the storytelling is done visually versus how the storytelling is done verbally. And another thing to notice is how there's basically a reason I call it kind of personal narrative or I fiction, is that it's, there's actually a visual representation of her in every panel or every page. And it's every page is like, I don't even know if we call it panel, because it's not, it's drawings rather than a comic, actually. Those of you who are into comics, it would be interesting to hear how you think her organization of ink drawings and text is different than a comic organization with its panels and gutters and so on. Yeah. Yeah, Roxy, you know how she separates out the image and the text? Yeah.
I tried that with reading without the picture, and then it's really different. Like, it really gives a lot of, it helps you visualize everything just with the image itself, because I tried it, I was like, well, maybe I'll try, because it's small paragraphs, like they're very small. So when I read the whole thing, I was like, it was pretty good.
All right. Okay. Well, so yeah, look at it, look up sort of a little bit of comparison for the visual versus the verbal kinds of storytelling. And yeah, it's yeah, so that's what Monday is all about. And any questions about forthcoming assignments or whatnot? Okay, I hope you all have a chance at some point to finish Convenience Store Woman, because it's really great when she and Shiraha start living together and they're just sort of cat and mouse, and like she's just so patient with him and he's so crabby with her, and their interactions are just really quite interesting, and yeah, take the sort of rom-com idea in a very different direction. Okay, so anyway, have a good weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday.
Bye, thank you.
Professor, I was going to stay first thing and just ask you a question.
I was going to do
Stop recording, hang on.